Good morning, my name is Benjamin Mohler. I'm a paleontologist, and at my current power levels, I expect to live for at least another 6,000 years. Today, the Menefee Expedition 2023 is winding up. We're going to be going out and checking up on some field sites that we explored last year. So if you saw last year's videos, we're going to go back to where BamBam came out. A bunch of volunteers have arrived during the night, so we have a nice big crew to do lots of exploration. And sometimes we sneeze, and that's just part of it. So let's get to it. So we're checking up on some old sites that haven't been touched by this crew in about 10 years. And lo and behold, there's lots of fossils that have been re-exposed through erosion. This is a nice little piece that I'm going to show that has a suture on one side. It's a nice thick piece of bone. So this is where this half would fuse to another part, likely turtle shell, which is a very, very common find out here. At one of our first dinosaur sites of the trip, pulling out some pieces of hadrosaur, that's the duck-billed dinosaur, including a toe piece and a little bit of jaw. But in these beds where the bones come out of, we also have tons and tons of plant material. So this is mudstone, forms under wet conditions, and clearly, as you can see from all this organic material, this is all kinds of knotty wood and stuff like that. This is a very wet area. Back when these rocks were actually formed. Nowadays, you can see it's extremely dry. It's a pretty cool reminder that times change in 80 million years. This bone in cross-section has some visible growth lines, which is really cool. This is an old friend of mine. This is the end of a limb, some vertebrate, maybe a dinosaur or a croc, but it's trapped underneath this sandstone cap, and it's really not in a good place to dig out. If we tried going in from the side, which goes against best practices for excavation, you could potentially break things. But unfortunately, that means that we've had to leave it, and I come back every so often to say hi, and maybe one day I'll be able to pop him out. Hello again. So, if you viewed Menefee Expedition 2022 on this channel, then this spot might look familiar to you. This is the tomb of BamBam. That's where that long bone that we excavated last year came from. And if you weren't aware, you might not necessarily have realized that an entire excavation had happened right there. And that's part of our responsibility as field scientists, is to minimize the environmental impact. So, we have been able to find little pieces of plaster, part of the jacketing process. They're scattered here and there, but the impact is very subtle. So that tells us that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that the desert, which not everyone might recognize as beautiful, but I definitely do as a desert dweller myself, making sure that we're not impacting the environment too much. Now, if you watched last year's expedition videos, you know that BamBam was originally field identified as possibly being a ceratopsid ischium. That's a long part of the hip that projects backwards towards the tail of a horned dinosaur, a ceratopsid. But ceratopsids also have horns. And once that fossil was taken back to the Western Science Center, cleaned up by volunteers, and then studied by scientists like Dr. Andrew McDonald, they're able to make the determination that BamBam is in fact a dinosaur horn that goes from almost close to the tip all the way to where the brow is, basically the eye orbit. We have part of that. So that's a really cool find to have dinosaur skull material. And as you can imagine, we came right back here to see if we can find more. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Wrapping up today, doing some gluing and repairing fossils found in the field. This is a really nice crocostioderm, originally in 3 pieces, now whole. Pieces of jaw, and lots of types of turtles. So, when contact is made, you put a little dab of glue between the 2 pieces, and gotta stand there and hold it so it doesn't fall apart. So we're gonna keep on doing that and head back out to the field tomorrow.